The Retail Distribution Review has far-reaching effects and various touch points throughout the financial services market. So we need to, on the one hand, have a look at the impact that it's going to have on the financial advisor. They need to change the way in which they've been doing business in the past. And most importantly, they need to have a compelling value proposition to ensure that they remain relevant to their consumers. On the other hand, you've got the product suppliers. And they also need to make certain changes in the way that they do business, for everything from product design to getting their product out into the market and then servicing that product through its life cycle. So the question they need to be asking is, what are we selling? To whom are we selling it to? And at what price? I think it does. I think the analogy of a medical doctor probably works best. When you go and see your GP, you're paying a professional for his advice, and you're quite comfortable to pay that GP a fee for his expertise. He will have a look at the situation, he will investigate your symptoms, and ultimately make a diagnosis. He's then going to give you a script that you're going to take to a product supplier of your choice, and you may choose to fill that script, or you might choose not to, for that matter. Financial advice is really no different. The problem is that we haven't seen an explicit advice fee in the past. So consumers are under the impression that the advice that they're getting from their financial advisor is actually for free. And that really has an impact on the perceived value of that advice. However, going forward, if we were to equalize with that GP, you're going to see a professional, you're quite willing to pay him for an advice fee, and then you can choose whether or not to implement that in terms of your financial planning going forward. I think it is. I think that one of the things that we have to take into account when we have a look at the Retail Distribution Review is that in this country we have varying levels of financial literacy. And the RDR takes that into account, in that it provides for very specific rules with regards to low advice models. And we also see the way in which product suppliers are getting their products out into the market is changing to incorporate financial inclusion. So for example, you have robo-advisors. You can purchase your products online, but the more complicated a product is, the more advice you're going to need in order to make that a successful component of your financial plan. The financial planning journey is really across your life cycle. It's not something that you can attend to as a tick box approach. So if we have a look, for example, at the advice fee, hopefully there would be a holistic financial plan drawn up by the financial advisor for that particular client, and that would be a separate fee. You would then need to investigate various ways in which you would like to plug in different solutions to enable that financial plan to be successful. And that would then be your second component, where you would need an upfront advice fee. Once that product has been initiated, there's going to be a level of ongoing advice that's required to make sure that the financial plan is flexible, to make sure that it's dynamic and it can move with the client's different needs, and also to be able to assess its performance as you go forward through the years. So I think it's really important that that particular ongoing advice fee remains relevant, and that it encourages the financial advisor to remain invested in the client's performance going forward. I think that is the desired result, and I think yes, it will. However, it's going to take time. This is not going to be something that we're going to achieve in the short term. The Retail Distribution Review specifically says in the executive summary that the idea behind this review, the very intention, is to increase confidence for the consumer in the outcomes that they're going to achieve by having a financial plan and a financial advisor. However, I think that South Africans are not used to paying for advice, and this is something that we're going to have to incorporate over time. It's really going to be an issue of baby steps at this point. The problem with that is that in the meantime, we have a growing advice gap. And an advice gap is really where clients have not sought advice for a number of years, and you only really see the results of that advice gap in a couple of years' time. So for example, you're 40-something who hasn't made adequate provision for retirement. Fast forward 20 years and you now sit with a consumer who's unable to successfully retire financially secure. On the more scary side of things, take for example your 20-something-year-old who has not got any risk cover in place. And fast forward that same 20 years, you're now sitting possibly with somebody who's uninsurable and is not able to provide for their breadwinner if something were to occur. And when we have a look at the UK market, we see that this is the very situation that they find themselves in at the moment. In fact, the rate of savings in the UK at the moment is at its lowest that it's been in 3 decades. And this is directly as a result of the advice gap. So we need to make sure that this process doesn't leave some consumers behind.